Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today we're chatting with my new friend, Dustin Heiner. He's in real estate, and this is another one of those cold emails that I got into my inbox. And I thought, man, this would be a really good episode for my audience. They're going to eat this up, especially anybody that's interested in going down that real estate path. Was looking him up today just so I could prepare for the interview, so kind of find out who this guy is. And we got like 9 mutual friends in common on Facebook, and he's a fellow believer. So we had an awesome conversation. So because we talked a lot about real estate, I asked my friend, and who's no stranger to this podcast, Stephen Hibbert, to be on this episode with me to ask any real estate related questions that he wanted to ask. But man, we had an awesome interview with Dustin. We talked all things real estate. He has an awesome story. He got fired from his job. He was working for a county as a IT guy in California, lost his job, and then shortly after was able to actually quit his next job that he had because of making passive income on his rental properties. Now he teaches people how to do the same thing. He has not had a job. He calls himself successfully unemployed. I love that. Successfully unemployed because of the passive income he gets from his real estate income. And then now also he teaches people how to do that. So it's a whole other stream of income. And he mentions he has a river of income. I love that. That's probably similar to like my tree, where I talk about you have your main content and then these branches that branch off that are along that same line. But rivers of income. Also, if you want to learn more about real estate and check out Dustin's program, he's giving away a free course. You just text rental to 33777. Text rental to 33777, or go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. That's masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Here's our interview with Dustin. Dustin, welcome to Streams of Income, man. Such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate you having me on the show. Yeah, I love podcasting. It's so much fun being around other podcasters, but I also really love investing. So investing in real estate is what it affords me to, I like the term successfully unemployed, not working a job, but being able to provide for myself and my family. But then I just go to the gym and hang out with my family, come on podcasts and talk to great people like you. So thank you so much for having me on the show, Ryan.
You're so welcome, because the opposite could be unsuccessfully unemployed, right? You don't want that.
It is. No, you don't want that.
Well, I feel like I saw that you quit your job early in life, and I quit I would have been like 33 or so, but it wasn't because I wanted to. I was in a political campaign. I was a campaign manager of a political campaign. We lost the race. But honestly, think of looking back, and you're a believer, you understand this. That was something that then got me to the place to where I didn't have a job anyway. So now I could actually pursue some of these things that were on my heart. But this is about you. It's an honor. Early before having you on, I looked at your Facebook profile, and we have a lot of friends in common. So that's always fun. I feel like we're instant friends, but I don't know your story completely other than what I read on your About Me page. So tell us about who you are and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, totally. So I'm an investor. I'm a real estate investor, and I love buying rental properties, long-term buy and hold properties. And so I'll go to the very end, and I'll quickly go back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. So when I was 37 years old, I was blessed to be able to quit my job. I had enough rental properties that made me money and passive income every single month, so I didn't have to work. So that's where I'm at now, is I literally don't have to work a job, which is great. But I'll quickly go back to the beginning. So when I was younger, I've always been entrepreneurial in my life, like, starting businesses and that type of thing. But I've always also been taught, just like every single person is taught, we go to school, we get good grades. Then we take those good grades and we go to college and get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt and get more good grades to get a degree, and then take that degree and try to get a job at different companies and then work there 40 plus years of your life and then retire. Exactly. Yeah. You try to retire on what you hopefully managed to save. And so I was going that exact same route because that's the only thing I ever knew.
That's what my dad did.
At the same, but we're all taught that. So with that, I started a couple businesses at the same time, though. Like when I was young, I was 13 years old, and I'm old enough to have had a newspaper route. Most people nowadays don't really know what newspapers are, but I was riding bikes with newspapers in my bags, and I throw them at 5 a.m., bang them on garage doors, waking people up. I had a graphic and website design company, skateboard manufacturing business. Nice. I even had a convenience store and a pizzeria. Started literally all these from scratch because I wanted to, own businesses. But I'm still working at 9 to 5, dead end. I call it a JOB, a just over broke job. But here's what really shoved me and catapulted me into real estate investing. So I had some businesses; they weren't making too much money, but I was still working that job, a regular 9 to 5. I got the most stable, secure job you could ever think of. It was working in California, a local county government doing IT. Like that's nothing. Like California's not going away. Government's definitely not going away, and technology's not going away. Yeah. So I got the most stable job ever. With that, my wife and I started having kids, and life started really taking off. And we had a couple businesses, but at the same time, I bought one rental property. And that one rental property is making me, I think it was like $315 every single month in passive income. I thought, my goodness, I need to become an investor. I need to just go all in with that. But you know what happens? Life gets in the way. So my wife and I started having kids. So this is what really shoved us into real estate investing. So we started having kids, and eventually we got to have our fourth child. And I went on paternity leave after my wife gave birth. Paternity leave where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and bonds with the baby and all that good stuff. Yeah. And so I come back to work in that same week that I get back to work on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, "Dustin, would you please come to the boss's office?" And I said, "Sure." And I hung up the phone and I paused for a second. I thought, why in the world are they calling me the office? Like, this isn't normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30, this was going through my brain. I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good call. And I paused for a second. I thought,
you about to have an extended weekend.
A couple months before I went on paternity leave, I heard that there could potentially be some layoffs. So there's some rumors going on that there was like funds were really being hard in our department. I shook it off. I said, I have so much seniority. I've been working here so many years. My bosses think I do a great job. I got the most stable job. I shook it off. I said, no way. So I get up and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Now, this hallway isn't very long. In fact, it's kind of short, but every single step that I take, it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer and longer. And it feels like my feet become lead bricks because it's dawning on me that I could potentially lose my job. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door is closed, and I see a secretary there, super sweet, nice old lady. And she says, "Dustin, would you please have a seat?" And she's grinning at me sheepishly and trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and I take my seat and I sit down and I start thinking about my life and this whole plan that I've been told, all this thing to get a career and eventually retire. I'm 65, 70 years old. I was like, if I get laid off right now, did I just waste my life on this? And then I realized, oh my goodness, we just had our fourth child. If I can't provide for my children, what does that make? Does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves are just crushing me. Then the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a coworker of mine. She's noticeably distraught, noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you could tell her world has been rocked. She passes by me, and my boss says, "Dustin, would you please come to the office?" So I get up, and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. So if it happened to me, it can happen to everybody. And this is why I'm telling a story. So hopefully you learn from this. Yeah. Now, I take that layoff notice and I walk back to my desk. And I sit down at my desk and I realize two things sitting right then and there, just getting laid off. The first thing, I need to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. So I was really, really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county, another department. The sheriff's department wasn't having the money issues. Blessed to be able to transfer over there. Didn't even get laid off, just a transfer, which was Perfect. Praise the
Nice.
Lord. The second thing, sitting in the chair, and this is the reason why I tell the story. I realized that I needed to make sure that this never, ever happened to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I made the conscious decision to tell myself, no longer will I ever present myself as being working for a job. We always get this question. What do you do? They're basically asking you for what value do you put on yourself?
Yeah.
I would always reply, I work for the county. I do IT work for the county. Well, I'm projecting my value as coming from my job. No,
Yes.
my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, from myself, and from my family. So
Yes.
right then and there, I realized I will now tell every single person that I am an investor because I knew I needed to be an investor. Life got in the way though. So I started telling every single person I am an investor.
How
Now it
many
may so
properties
happen,
did you have at that time?
I think I had one or two.
Yeah,
One or
that's
one or
awesome.
two, but I
Yeah.
made the conscious effort to say,
Yeah.
even though almost 100% of my money comes from my job,
Yeah.
that's my part-time job. I am
Yeah.
now a full-time investor. Fast forward the
Awesome.
story.
You're
I started buying
calling things that
property.
be not as though they were right there. Like you were speaking by faith the things that you wanted for your life before you
100%.
even had it. So that's awesome.
Well, I needed that mindset shift. Like I
Yes.
needed that because I kept letting things get in the way. But then with this mindset shift, I kept buying property after property after property, each one making me $250 or more in passive income. Eventually I had 30 plus properties. And I was like, man, even though I'm making $75,000 a year here at this job, I'm losing money. So the last part of the story, I went to my new boss, great boss and all. I said, hey boss, I'm laying you off. Here's your 2 weeks notice, jokingly. And we laughed. He said, well, Dustin, what are you going to do? He said, I don't have to do anything. I literally own real estate that makes me money without working. So the last part of the story, if you remember that hallway that I walked down, that short hallway that got longer and longer and longer, my feet felt like lead bricks. Well, I walked to and from my work a mile and a half every single day. I did this 1,000 times. The last time walking home to my car or from my job to my car, last time I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never, ever need a job again. And the reason why is because I knew my value is so much more than anybody could ever pay me. So everybody, for you listening to this, you need to realize that you are worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And you'll know this easily. So your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money. It takes money out of their pocket. If you got paid for what you're worth, they would go broke. So fast forward the story, I now have enough properties that I'm now successfully unemployed. Now I have time to spend with my family, go to the gym, create more businesses that hire more people, all these great things. And I'll pause the story because you probably got plenty of questions.
No, this is awesome. Keep going. You're good. Is there anything else? Wow, I could ask a bunch of stuff, and I'm sure Steven could too. But yeah, I mean, how many properties do you have now?
30 something. Now I'm also getting into hotels and apartment complexes
so cool.
and play Monopoly. I just love it. Now it's like, because I'm an investor, deals come to me like storage units, complexes and mobile home parks and all that sort of stuff.
That's so cool. So how did you go from, so you quit your job and then you had all these, how many properties did you have when you decided to lay your boss off?
I want to say, yeah, I think I had 22 or 23 total properties. And remember, each one
without
would make me
giving numbers
$250
away, like were you the money you had from your job versus the money you had coming in from real estate at that time, were they equal, or were percentage wise about where were they?
Yeah. So it was more. And here's how this is my path to get it. I asked my wife, hey, honey, what are our expenses? Like, how much do we need to bring in order to just cover our expenses? And I remember the number as plain as day, $4,200. I thought, okay, $4,200, mortgage and insurance, food and all that good stuff. Well, I thought, and because my business model was buying one rental property that made me a minimum of $250 a month in passive income. Some are making me $400, $500, $600. Now the properties I bought back in 2006, they're making me like $800, $900 a month in passive income. So it was just literally math from there. I thought one property making me $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year. Well, that's good. But what if I got 10 properties? That's $2,500 a month, $30,000 a year without working. 20 properties is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year in passive income. And then I just knew I had to scale. So by the time I quit, I want to say I had about 22, 23 properties, maybe somewhere around there. And with that, I had like the minimum was $250. My wife won't let me tell you the exact number, but the minimum, I'll just tell you, the minimum are $250. Now some are making me, like I said, a lot more than that. But that was the path, was realizing a business model and seeing that the trajectory of getting something that somebody would be happy to pay for. And then I make passive income on top of that.
Love it. Man, Steven, you want to shoot him with real estate questions? Because I feel like there's a lot of things, and just keep the audience in mind. Somebody who wants to be at that level. What questions would you?
Yeah,
ask?
thinking about your audience, they have a business or are dueling like you, having a business and then working. But that first property, that's the questions I'm normally asking a lot of my investor friends. Like, what was that first trigger? And it seems to be like the first property is a interesting story, then there's a delay, and then it's like you kind of dial it in, and then you have your system, and you just bang out your system. What was that first property, and what made you think like, oh, real estate is now the thing that I want to get into to get that first property?
I like the path that you said. Like, there's a little delay, which I'll get into it. So, back in 2006 is when I first started investing, and I didn't know anything about investing. I'm just a regular employee, and I watched one of those late night infomercials, like at 2 a.m. They said, "Hey, we're coming to your town, a free seminar. You come, we're going to teach you." And I thought, okay. And I went to that free seminar, and it was all hype, all sales pitch. And they said, "Now run to the back. It's normally $80,000."
Yep.
So I ran to the back, all excited. $1,000 I spent for this 2-day seminar. And the sad thing was, it was all hype for a $80,000 seminar, a $60,000. It was all just a in my opinion, money making scheme. Now I took the little bit that they taught me, and I said, well, if I had $80,000, I'm not going to give it to you. I'll just go ahead and do it myself.
You don't want to leverage all your credit cards and max out everything that you could ever.
You're 100% right, Steven.
They pitched that.
That's exactly what they did. Yes, you've been there. It seems like, because they even tell you on day one.
Things at 13, 14, 15 years old. So I was like, oh, I see what's going on here.
And they even tell you, hey, on the first day, you call up all your credit cards and you increase your credit limit, because you're going to need it for your investing. No. It increases so you can buy their products. It's just, it's horrible. So here's what happened. That I took that little bit that they told me, and everything went bad, meaning my property manager started stealing from me within 6 months. It was horrible. Let me quickly give you, and I'll give you, like you said, there's a pause, and then you figure out the business model. I'll give you the wrong way to invest that I did, where I actually ended up being having the property manager steal from me. Then I'll quickly tell you the right way, the business model that I found out. So here's what they said. And this is every quote unquote guru will say this. You find a home anywhere in the country and you run the numbers. Basically your expenses are lower than your income or your rents. And they say you'll make $50 a month in passive income. Just make sure you make that, and you'll get appreciation, which I'll pause and say, I don't invest for appreciation anymore at all. It's cash flow, because this is money that I use to feed my family, and I won't sell these properties. This is generational wealth. I will literally give these properties to my kids. So back to the story, but the wrong way, and you'll quickly forget it as soon as I tell you. So run the numbers, make sure you're making $50 a month in passive income, and you also have appreciation. Then they say spend thousands of dollars to buy the property, then thousands of dollars to fix up the property, then you find a tenant, and then you find a property manager. Well, in my opinion, that's just about backwards. I did that, and my property manager started stealing from me within 6 months. The reason why was because I didn't build the business first. This is what I like to figure out. I figured out, but I also share, is we build the business first. Now, that was the wrong way. Let me quickly give the business model that I eventually had to develop to make sure that it ran right. Now, the first time, it didn't work right because I didn't build a business. But then I also realized, and I could have sat there and said, oh, this doesn't work. What was me? And move on. But I didn't. I said, I'm a business owner. Let me approach this from a business mindset. And so what I did was I realized that in a business model, what I want to do is have a business that owns things. Give you a quick example of what that means. So if you're going to start a convenience store, soda machines, candy bars, all the good stuff. Well, you're not going to sign a lease on a location. open the doors and set a box of candy bars in there on the ground without building the business. No, you go out of business in 2 seconds. What you would do is you'd get the gondolas. Those are shelving units that the candy bars go on, the countertops, the cold storage, fountain machines, cash registers, insurance, bank accounts, employees, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. We build the entire business, find the right people working the business, and then once that's built, that's when we buy the property, and that property is our inventory. See, I'm an investor, but what it really comes down to, I'm a business owner. Correct. And I buy inventory and put it into my business. That is honestly, in 6 years, how I was able to scale my business so fast is because I had a business model that all I had to do was find another piece of inventory and put it into the business. That's what we do, is we build the entire business first, and then we buy the inventory and put it into it. So that was what the delay, when you said it, Stephen, there was a delay from me because I was like, what is going on? They're stealing from me. This is bad. Then I approached it from the business mindset. Now, I'll quickly give you an example of what it looks like to have a good property manager. So a good property manager the wrong way, quickly give you the wrong way. Let's say you did everything the guru said, you buy a house, you get everything, and you start calling up property managers. Hey, property manager, would you manage my property in number 1 Happy Street? Sadly, this happens a lot. No, I would never manage that property. I'll get shot there if I go there, which you now don't have an asset. You have a liability. Imagine if before you bought the property, you called the property manager because you've already did all the homework. You have your business built. You say, property manager, I'm looking at buying this property on number 1 Happy Street. They say, no, don't buy that property. I'll get shot there. I'm not going to manage it. How much better is it after you haven't even bought the property yet? After that, you're like walking past and saying, I'm glad I didn't buy that property, as opposed to already buying the property and then having all this money sunk into it. So that's what we do, is we hire experts on the ground who, before we do anything from financing to insurance to inspections to property managers, we make sure that they help us to run the business right. Does that all make sense?
It does. Are these properties local to you or all over the country?
No. So when I first started, I was in California. I now live in Arizona. I moved out of California. I'm glad to have done that. But it was in California in 2006. Prices were skyrocketing. I could not make passive income from the amount of the home. So I started investing in Ohio, of all places. Much lower price of homes. Rents were higher. I was able to make that. So now it's Ohio, Texas, and Arizona. And all my students, we literally invest all over the country. We found the Midwest is really terrific right now. Even right now, this is the end of 2022. Getting into 2023, even right now, my students are buying properties all over the place because we're investors, but we make sure we're making a minimum of $250 a month in passive income.
Okay, so what is that like, Steven? I know you probably got a ton of questions, and I want to make sure you can you ask him any of the deeper stuff. But thinking through from a newbie perspective, Dustin, I did real estate back. I'm from Indiana, and I had some rental property near a college because I lived right in a college town, and then when I moved to Texas, it became harder. It was me and my buddy and my brother, and essentially it just didn't work out. But I still have a desire to get back into real estate. So thinking through, what does it look like logistically? I live in Texas. Let's say I have a property in Indiana. How do I have to fly to Indiana to look at these properties, or do you already have I imagine if I join your program, which sounds appealing, by the way, you probably have a team of you probably have somebody on the ground there that's like looking for these opportunities. And if I'm a student of yours, deals come across my potential desk. Is that right? Or what does that look like to invest in a property that's 1,000 miles away?
Got it. Yeah. So I personally, and all my students, we love investing far away from us because we get better markets. We might not live in the best markets. So we like investing in other areas where we can make the passive income. That's number one. With that, we invest all over the country. And what's funny is the 30 plus properties that I've owned, I've literally only seen one of them before I bought it. Awesome. And so at the same time, I don't even fly to the areas in new areas that I'm going to start investing. I don't even fly there. Like, I probably won't even visit that state. Maybe I will, but I won't, most likely. I'll probably never go back to Ohio. I went there the first time because I had no clue what I was doing. I said, I have to fly there. So I took a red eye, stayed there for 2 days. It was a whirlwind. And then after doing that, I did it one more time into Illinois, and then it didn't work out. I couldn't find a right property manager. And I realized, man, technology is so great. all I do is find the right people. Like even if I lived in Ohio or lived in whatever specific city, all I would do is calling people. I'm relying on them as experts. Now, Zillow is not an expert. Redfin's not an expert. Truly, like these are not experts. Who are the experts? They are the people that literally live there on the ground. Like you're a good property manager. Let's say you're looking at this property. Let's say number 1 Happy Street is actually a good property. You call the property manager. Hey, I'm looking at buying this property. Tell me, how much could I rent it for? What's my vacancy factor? You know, like how often would it be vacant? What type of clientele would I have? And will you manage a property? A good property manager will know the area. And let's say it's a good property. Say, well, hey, that's a great property. In fact, I know there's a house 2 blocks away that we're currently managing. It's the same type of house. We were trying to get $1,400 for it. Zillow said $1,400, but we couldn't. We can only get $1,300 for it. That is expert information, because if you go and try to run your numbers off of $1,400 and you're hoping to get $250, well, that's going to cut out $100 out. So what it looks like is what we do is we find the right people, and it's interviewing. Like if you're going to start a business, actually go back to that convenience store again. If you're going to start that convenience store, you're not going to do everything, build the entire business, and then see somebody walking down the street and say, hey, you got a pulse, come in here. I want you to be my manager. I want you to manage my money, manage my inventory, manage my customers, manage my business, manage everything. No, you wouldn't do that. You would interview very, very well. And so what I do to teach all my students is we interview multiple property managers. I give them a laundry list of questions, 22 questions and answers that you're looking for. And we interview them multiple times. Now, here's a tip for you. Texting is not an interview. Email is not interview. Phone calls are interviews. I'll be honest, property managers probably won't jump on Zoom. They're too busy. But phone calls, they'll take phone calls all the day. So that's what we want. We want to find the right people. Now, for my students, what we do is what I love to do is I love to teach them how to fish. Now, if I were to just say, here's a city, here's a property manager, buy it and do it. They haven't learned anything. What I want is my students to come, learn, I teach them how to fish, they learn how to do it, and then they leave and they're on their own and they're fishing on their own, which lots of my students do. So that's what I love to do, is give them principles, and here's also one quick thing. I've taught so many hundreds of students, almost even thousands. I think it's actually thousands of students now.
Awesome.
That it's so amazing seeing them change their lives. But what's great too is now building a community of other investors. So my students, they're giving me the cities that they're investing in, the property managers, their mortgage brokers. It's like they're giving me all the businesses that they built. And I have a list. Hey, new student, look at what the students have done in the past. Now you have to do your own due diligence. You have to make sure it works for you, but they've done a lot of the legwork.
Yeah. Do you have any opportunity? So like just thinking from my perspective, I don't honestly see myself, like if I was going to join your program, I don't see me personally like doing all that, having the time and energy to do that legwork. Do you have a done for you type option where maybe a student finds the property for somebody like me, and I kind of connect
with
the
lender,
and that student just gets some kind of a finder's fee or something for finding those properties for me?
That's a brilliant and fantastic question. So initially, when I first started this, I didn't want to do any of that stuff because I was like, you know what? I just want to help people. I just want to teach them. But now, after doing this for so long, I have so many contacts, as well as so many people that they're literally asking me, Dustin, just we want the done for you type of program. So I'm glad you asked that. I'm literally creating that right now.
That's awesome.
What I want, here's my end goal, is having 5 strong cities. Now, it's not like, here's your property, do this. There's turnkey companies. If you want to use them, turnkey companies will work just fine. I'm not a big fan of turnkey companies, but what my goal is, this is my vision for the done for you. Have 5 different cities that anybody who comes in, we can look through every single city, having the right property managers, they're all the right realtors to wholesalers to investors that they can work with, basically build the entire business for them and have options for them and say, here's it done for you. Now get inside here and now let's start getting properties. So you already have everything built. Now the done for you part is the business, building the business for you. The property, that's the easy part. In fact, a lot of students, they jump right to, actually, this is what happens. It's funny. A student says, hey, Dustin, I found a new city to invest in. I said, that's great. And then the next thing they said, I already have 5 realtors looking for properties for me. I'm like, whoa, stop. The realtors are literally the last step. Inventory is the last step. We have so many things to do before that. So the done for you is building everything up. And here's the great thing. You guys have probably heard of the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. The premise is only work 4 hours a week. Well, I think working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't want to work 4 hours a month on my properties.
Awesome.
I maybe worked 30 minutes a month because the business that I built now runs itself, and properties get sent to me. Like, I wake up in the morning, drink coffee, look at my email, because I have so many people sending me deals, and I just buy the ones that I want. So that's the done for you business model.
That's
What
incredible.
do you think? Would that be appealing?
I would love to be a part of something like that. I mean, I would obviously, with prayer and you're thinking through that, but that sounds like an awesome, because I am on an email list of one of the turnkey companies. I have a friend that's invested in them, is super happy and loves it. But I've never just never jumped in. And I don't know why. I've been focusing on other stuff. And he's also in the same situation where he's actually never seen some of the properties, just like you. But I love it. I mean, I already know you. I don't know. I feel like a connection with you, and I'd love to. If I was going to do anything, I'd be working with you for sure.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. The quick little side note, I think turnkey companies are fine, but there's a couple big things reason why I just shy away. I don't want to do it myself, but also encourage people not to. Number one, there's a reason why they're in business, is to make money. So you're leaving a lot of money on the table on every single property. I mean, they're making money, which that's their business model. Yeah. But another big thing, you're getting their business that they might have built well, or they might not have. You don't have any options other than this one person, and maybe they don't even have the right people, and even financing, all that sort of stuff. Like, you're leaving money on the table and you're getting somebody else's business, which I'm not a big fan of. I like to build my business so that I know it's going to run right.
That's awesome. Okay, Stephen, go for it.
Well, no, I find it fascinating. We operate very differently, but that's why I like real estate, because everybody has their own system and program. It seems like the way that you're going about it is the same way that we go through it. Like, the house is almost the least important part. Even like the price of the house to me is nonsensical, because the same thing, I'm never selling. I'm going after the cash flow. And I don't know if rents will go continuously sky high or level or even dip down a little bit, but we're building a lot of just like risk into the properties that we're looking at now, because I don't know if people will get squeezed and then rents will have to come down, especially with the Fed raising rates. Is there a concern as I guess the next thing that you're building, is that something that you're looking into and taking that into consideration? Because I think, just hearing Ryan too, there probably is a bunch of just private money that's willing to lend that will be a lot easier than banks. And who knows what's going to happen. I think banks are getting harder to borrow from, but there might be huge opportunities for private money, and then doing the same system that you have, that could be a huge opportunity for you.
Yeah, totally. Private money is terrific. Now, Stephen, when did you start investing? What year?
I don't know the year, but I was 16 when I bought my first property. So
before the crash or after the crash of 2008?
It was like 2007, right in that. Okay. And then we rode that out.
Awesome. Yeah, same. I started in 2006 as well. So 16, buying your first property. That's impressive. Good job, dude. So with that, the reason why I asked the question is because seeing through 2008, I have a perspective that a lot of people that started, like, let's say 2014, 2015.
That's what makes me nervous. A lot of people now, they're like, oh, it's amazing. It's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right, they're all like, Airbnb. Sure. I got 2 properties. They're Airbnb. And I'm like, yes. Did you see back in 2010 when all the hotels were almost going out of business? Like, you need to be protected. Anyways,
margin of safety is something that we're constantly going after, because we started
totally.
Off with that.
Don't get me wrong, I like Airbnb. Yes, I like Airbnb, but I want to make sure that I'm protected on all sides. So here's what I saw, because a lot of people are asking me the question, well, Dustin, if there's a big problem in the economy and people started getting laid off from work, won't that lower rents? And I'll say, well, I'll be completely honest with you. No, in fact, they might go up. Here's a big reason. Back in 2008, we saw foreclosure signs on lots of homes. Companies, banks were taking back properties. Well, that's sadly, and it's very sad, but it's no longer a homeowner, but they have to live somewhere. What is that pool of tenants? The pool goes up, which means there's more demand, but the supply is still there. And I'll be buying more properties. So same thing and I do believe right now obviously, it seems like we're definitely in a recession, but there's going to be a lot more turmoil coming in 2022, 2023. Like, I'm now shorting some stocks and stuff because it's now looking pretty rough. But with that, rents are, this last year and a half, it's been skyrocketing, which is a bit silly. It's just silly. It might dip down just because of regular market, just because it's gone up so high, it might come down. But if there is a market crash like 2008, you're not going to see rents drop 20, 30, 40%. No, not at all. In fact, you'll see it maybe even go up because there's more renters now. Now, with that, I think you're 100% right. Private money is amazing because as soon as lending dries up, which it will, because in 2008 it dried up. It was so hard to get loans. I even used a credit card. I literally used a credit card. It's an advanced strategy because I knew I had a property I could buy. It's a business model. If I bought this property, I accounted for the expenses for the credit card and bought the property. Now, with that, I had to get creative. Same thing with now with the economy changing. You're probably going to have to get much more creative. In fact, I've used 14 different ways to get financing. A credit card's one, signature loan. You go and walk in a bank. Hey, can I have a loan? Oh, here you go. Here's sign your name. Unsecured line of credit. Commercial loans, bundled loans, portfolio loans, private money, hard money. Like there's literally just lots and lots of ways to get financing for the properties. What you need to be doing now is being ready for this amazing time. This is the big, if you're going to take away anything, building a business is number one, but number two is in the coming few years, it's going to be an amazing time to invest in real estate. I wish I was in the same place I was back in now as I was back in 2010. 2010, I would have bought so many more properties. I'm so ready. If it does happen again, where it crashes again, it's going to be the best time ever to invest in real estate. And it's kind of like this. I liken it to this. If you go surfing, you're going to be on a surfboard and you're going to start paddling. Well, you don't paddle after the wave passes you because you're not going to be able to catch it. You're going to paddle before so you catch that wave because you're ready and then you ride it all the way in. Same thing with real estate investing. It's going to be the best time ever to invest in real estate. Prices are going to come down a ton on homes, buying great properties, but you need to know how to do it, learn how to do it right, already be investing now so you already have the business built, and then you'll catch that wave and ride it all the way in.
Just thinking. Oh, so tell me if like I was gonna just thinking out loud here. I know Stephen, you probably got some more questions too, but wondering.
They're gonna go deep
for people. You're gonna go deep for people that want to get started. Obviously, you can go just single family homes, but let's say somebody who is going to has maybe access to more money or something. Would you send them straight to something like an apartment, or would you still tell somebody to no? You should still do a single family home, but maybe you buy 3 of them over 3 months or what? And it may look different for every person how you would advise them.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I've found predominantly the better way to do it is do residential. When I say residential, it's 4 units and below. Once you get to 5, it's different financing, lots of different things go involved with that. So my suggestion is 4 units and below because anybody can get a conventional loan and 4 units and below. Like that's literally, you can still get a 30-year fixed. You get fixed loans. That's why I love having fixed expenses. My rents go up, but my expenses are fixed. With that, I suggest doing residential to start because anybody can find a realtor and a seller and a mortgage broker and put them together and buy a house. You can do that and then just figure out, make sure you build the business to put a tenant in there. It's so much easier than, let's say, in buying a 20 to 25 or 30 unit apartment complex. Now, if I have students that come to me, if they do, and they say, I have extra money, I want to invest in apartment complexes, what I would suggest is starting out being a part of a syndication where you are now being a part of a multifamily, a bigger, like let's say 100, 200 unit apartment complex. And so you can see how it works. You can see behind the curtains because there's so much more to learn. Whereas a single family home or residential 4 units below, you buy a house, after you find and make sure you have the right property manager, and then say, property manager, take care of my house, and they do everything.
Yeah. Are you still looking at like 20% down for most of these loans?
Depending on the area,
financing.
You can. 20% is great. Meaning, yes, you can do that. I have some mortgage brokers that are in our network that they're as low as 5% down that you can buy this property for. So it just, and here's a huge tip that I give all my students, or I teach all my students. If you get a roadblock at 1 or 2 or 3 different banks, that's 3 banks. Every single bank is different. They have different terms. They have different investors, all that sort of stuff. Keep calling. In fact, one of my students called 23 banks before she found the right bank that had a minimum of $30,000 to invest. She found a $45,000 house, and she couldn't. It was going to cash flow over like $300 a month. and she couldn't get the financing for it because the minimum is usually $50,000, maybe even $75,000 or $100,000. She called 23 banks, and finally on the 23rd bank, and I have that's one of the companies in my list of banks you can use. That now she bought the property. Now it's making her money because it was a lower money amount. But that's just the thing. Just call as many banks as possible.
Yeah, I literally asked Steven today over Facebook Messenger because my wife and I were dreaming about having a place that Steven lives in Florida. We'd love to have a second home in Florida, but we probably would continue to live here in Texas. What advice? This is a selfish question, but you're on my podcast, so I can ask it.
Well, yeah, you have your own podcast. That's why
I can ask this question because there's other people some people thinking the same thing. Does any of this change? I know you probably, I would love to have 22 vacation homes, but buying that first one, that's a second home that we live in some of the time. And I know that, I know the 14-day thing, but we'd probably live there more than 14 days out of the year. So, any advice on a rental property like in Florida that we rent some of the time and we live at some of the time?
So what's the longest time frame duration at one time would you live in that property?
Oh gosh, honestly, I could see us being there for 2 or 3 months at a time.
Okay. Yeah. So here's a couple different things. The first thing, because I have a lot of students say, "Hey, Dustin, what if I buy a house in Hawaii so I can go there for like 1 or 2 weeks out of the year?" I'm like, well, let's think of it this way. I personally won't, even though I'm an investor, I won't do that because I buy other properties that then make me money so I can just go do an Airbnb in Hawaii. Yes. I don't want that headache. I don't want that, $2 million. Like I just go rent it out. So I'll make more money so I can do that. Sure. But if it's going to be, we're going to be there longer term, then I would suggest doing an Airbnb. Like if you're going to say, I'm going to block out the entire 3 months of whatever, the summer, the winter, whatever it might be. Yeah. Like I have a lot of snowbirds, like they live in the upper states or even in Canada, and then they invest in like Arizona. And so they come down for 3 months. But what you would do is you would do either like short-term Airbnb or even midterm, like, month stays at a time. And you just block out the time of when you're going to stay there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any advice on the financing on that? I know that's a longer conversation, but
it's a second property. My suggestion for you, it's a second property. It's better financing than an investment property. Not as good as a single family home, like your primary residence. But what you could do is saying, hey, it's totally up to you if you want to do this. Like, let's say you're going to move there and you actually do it as a primary residence, but you move there and you're like, well, who knows? We might not do it. Now, we want to be obviously honest, but at the same time, who knows which one's going to be a first primary? You never know. You might live more there. You might live more in Texas. Right. I don't know. But either primary or a second home.
Got it. Very, very, very helpful.
Yeah, and you can do that, but you just have to be careful of if you are going to rent it in that first year. Sometimes you can run into problems if you're saying it's a primary.
Yeah, totally. And it just, honestly, the second loan, or sorry, not second loan, second home loan versus a primary residence, it's not that great of a difference in interest rates, maybe half a point or maybe even a point or more. But I mean, really what it comes down to is it's your mortgage broker. They're the only ones that are ever going to check to make sure, are you doing this or that? You could even be straightforward and honest and say, who knows, they might even just say, okay, we'll just go ahead and do it as a primary because you might rent it out, you might not, I don't know. So you just be honest, straightforward and honest with them. And I have had a lot of mortgage brokers say, okay, yeah, that we could use that as a primary as opposed to a secondary home or something like that. Just be honest with them. Like I said, bankers are all different. They have different terms. They have different criteria, underwriting, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. The underwriting is really what differs between all those different banks too.
Cool. Steven, do you have a couple more questions for him? I want to be respectful of his time, and I also want to make sure we share the links where people can find out how to jump into his programs and buy.
I guess I'll ask this: the system that you built, how long did that take? And then you can lead right into showing us where to learn more, because I think this is really what you're pitching is your system that you came up with. I mean, it's everybody's got their own, like I said, but it seems like yours developed, honed, taught, and then refined over time.
He's got success stories, which is huge.
Yeah, totally. So I would say it probably took me a good 5 years to really develop an understanding of how to do it. But honestly, what got it even more refined is when I started teaching it to my friends and family members and friends from church. Because as I was quitting my job, I had people, this is the way I would say, oh yeah, I'm quitting my job. First question is, how are you doing that? And I said, I invest in real estate. I said, the second question always came, well, can you show me? I'm like, I guess. And so I started teaching them one-on-one. And with that, I started having to refine it because I had what I instinctively knew, because I either knew business or whatever. I had to really make it itemized out, or listed out so that they could understand it. Yes. That really helped me to refine it. But let me get into a little bit more. But before I do that, do you mind if I give everybody a free real estate investing course? I'll just give it to them for free.
Go for it. Yeah.
It'll literally give you everything else so much more in depth: how to build the business, find the right area of the country to invest, how to scale your business, find the right property manager. So if you text the word rental, RENTAL, rental to 33777, rental to 33777, I'll literally give it to you. That's 33777. Or if you go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course, masterpassiveincome.com/free course. And so with that, you're literally getting what I did as I developed. Okay, this didn't work right, but this did work right. So what didn't, I ripped out of my business model. What did, I kept it in. Now, what's even better, now it's literally been over 1,000 students now that I've coached. Wow. With these students, I've even been able to refine it so much more that it's systematized. And here's the fun thing. Like, I'm not that smart. I'm just like your next door neighbor that figured out something that just wants to help you out. In fact, I have friends from church that say, hey, Dustin, can you help me? I'm like, yeah, I'll just help you out. In fact, I literally just give away my book. I said to everybody, well, this is what happened. People would say from the very beginning, this is how I wrote my book. The first thing was people would ask me, well, Dustin, can you teach me? So I would be teaching people one-on-one, but the first questions, they're great questions, but they're beginner questions. So I thought, oh my goodness, I'm doing this over and over and over and over again. So I wrote a book, and then I would give it out. Here, read this book. It'll walk you through the process. And then when you're done, then you'll have better questions, not better, but like they fit you, applicable to you, your financing, your goals, your risk tolerance, everything like that. So that I can then get you to the next step.
That's a brilliant strategy, because it also gives them, you kind of testing them. Are they willing to read the book before bothering me with my time?
I didn't want to say that, but yes, you're 100% right, Ryan. Yeah. Because I would literally, here's a sad thing. People pay me money to coach them, friends and family members, people from church. I would literally coach them. Do you know how many of them, after I developed all this stuff, actually follow through with it? Almost
Those who
zero.
Pay attention. It's
100%. They don't have any skin in the game. They're like, oh, that sounds great. I've literally coached people, spending hours and hours with them, but they don't do it. I'm like, if you just did it.
It still pains me. Right, I want to help everybody, but it's until they pay, they don't pay attention. It's so aggravating. I have family that I'm just like, we talked about this like 20 years ago. If you would have just listened then, now
you could have 50 properties.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree with 100%. Also, if you're paying, wherever you're putting your money, your time, that's where you're putting your
attention,
energy.
You're 100% right. And that's the one thing that I try to tell everybody, like from my students to on my podcast or anything like that. But I love this. Maybe it's an old proverb, but it's, when is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The next best time is literally right today. People might say, well, the market is this, the market's that. Doesn't matter. Here's the great thing. For me, Stephen, we're in the same boat. We invest for passive income. So whether the market goes up, if the market goes down, or the market goes sideways, we're making money. In fact, I knew, you're 100% right. I had so many people back in 2008 that I knew, as well as you heard of so many people going bankrupt, investors going bankrupt because they were investing the wrong way. I was looking around like, man, this is not affecting me. In fact, I'm making more money now. I was blessed because I knew I wanted to quit my job and have money coming in. That was just happened to be the right way to go. And it was literally, here's another big thing. It's recession proof, number one, but inflation proof too. With inflation going up, my rents go up. So I just have the same amount of money now that I get.
How much does your mortgage go up?
None. It doesn't. Taxes are relatively the same. Insurance is relatively the same. Your expenses are relatively fixed.
That's the big thing that people I don't think grasp is like, even at a slight break even, if you can justify the property and the terms are really good, over time your rents will continue to go and your terms that are locked in stay that same. So you're making more over time. So even what you were saying, you're making 200 on the first one. Now over time you're making a lot more. It's not that the mortgage is down, you're paying less on the mortgage. It's just the rents have continued to go up. I'm sure in the last couple of years, some of those properties that you bought long ago are now really cash flowing because the rents have doubled and tripled.
They're doing great. And Stephen, you reminded me of something that I love sharing. So when you buy one rental property, you make money 6 different ways. When you buy with just one rental property. The first one, we talked about it, passive income. Rents minus your expenses, that's your passive income. That difference puts in your pocket. The next way is equity capture. When we buy the home, we don't pay market value or more. Homeowners do. We're investors. We're going to pay 10%, 20%. We're going to pay less than the value is. So let's say we're buying it for $200,000, but it's worth $240,000. Well, we capture $40,000 in equity. Also, another one, forced appreciation. That's another one too. We'll get to that in just a second. Forced appreciation.
Yeah, mute myself.
You're an investor, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Forced appreciation. You fix up the house. Let's say you spend 10 grand into it, but you make it worth 20,000 because you put money into it. Well, that's more money that you make. You also just regular overtime. Market appreciation goes up. Tax benefits. Now, I'll pause this and say, if anybody has never had the benefit of depreciation on their taxes, oh my goodness, it is amazing, especially when you get to 10, 20, 30 properties. You're like, what in the world? Like, I thought I was gonna have to pay lots of money in taxes. No. IRS uses that depreciation and you pay very little, which is, it's written for us as investors. On top of that,
if you don't sell, there's business. No recapture, so it's amazing.
100%.
And your kids will get
your tax benefits.
Complete.
Stephen, you're awesome. Sorry. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. I love it. I love talking to other investors. They know the goodness. Now, the last thing that is, and you mentioned it, Stephen, one of my more, I love passive income. That's what I invest for. But another one is the mortgage buy down. If I buy a house, my tenant, they're the ones that pay for the interest and the principal. They pay every bit of that. And you'll love this. So I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my mortgage. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay for repairs. My tenants pay for all of that. It so happens that money comes into me, back out to all them, but they are the ones that are paying for this. So, Stephen, you're 100% right on.
That's
I guess this is an example. Me and a friend of mine did a deal with 0% interest, and we overpaid for the house because we ran the amortization. We knew what the payment schedule was, and we could pay it off sooner. But it was a negative cash flowing house for the first 2 or 3 years. But the pay down of the loan was the thing that people did not understand. Like, why would you overpay for this house? It's like, first of all, we're not really overpaying for it because it was a no money out of pocket. Yes, we had to split the difference for the first 2 to 3. It was almost 3 years. But that a little amount is what the down payment was spread over those 3 years. And then the tenant truly paid off the loan. Then we had a free and clear house very quickly because it was straight principal only payments. It's just interesting. That's why I love the financial calculator. It's like a lot of people don't understand it, but the price of the house is the least important thing. To me, it's all about the terms, and I will gladly overpay if I can get the terms that I'm looking for, because you're going to pay that down so fast, depending on how you're setting it up. But the monthly is where
you're 100% right. Yeah, you're right. For me though, if I were to keep, let's say I'm only making $50 a month in passive income, or let's start with zero.
Let's just an extreme example to show to drive that
totally, and it works. It works totally. I realize that I need to feed my family. Like if I'm not working a job, I need that $250 a month. And you know that minimum that the gurus would say $50 a month in passive income? Well, that's not that much. Let's just round it to $100 a month in passive income. Well, that's only $1,200 a year from that one property. Let's say, God forbid, a furnace goes out and you don't have the cash reserves. Well, there goes all your passive income. How are you going to feed your family?
AC, yep.
Yes, all that stuff. So with $1,250 being the minimum, that's $3,000 a year. That'll go a long way to help feed your family and if there's any problems. But all the above, Stephen, you're 100% right.
That's so good. So, Dustin, our friend, you're closer to him than me, but Shane Sams, at the end of his episodes, he always has a Bible verse. So is there a verse for you that
I like that
has meant a lot to you, or anything that you feel free to also preach, and you can close us out here? But what's a verse that comes to mind with building your business, or just anything the Lord's speaking to you right now?
Oh, yeah. So the one that's coming to mind right now to my mind is Galatians. For I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. And so by far, anything that I do, if I'm going to preach anything, it's Christ and him crucified. Because there's no point, in my opinion, to have somebody have a better life to eventually go to hell. That's like the worst thing. I'd rather see them have a horrible life and then go to heaven. Just like Jesus tells the story of Lazarus. You know, in this life, the Pharisee had good things. I don't know if it's a Pharisee, but the rich man had good things. But now Lazarus in his life had bad things, and now he has good things. So I love how, actually, I literally read the Bible multiple times a day and every single night. And you guys will appreciate this. So my oldest daughter is now 14. We have 4 kids. And when she was 3 years old, I thought, you know what? I've been people tell me it's good to read to your kids, like read stories to the kids. It helps them think. I thought, well, what better story than the Bible? So literally since she's been 3 years old, now we have 4 kids. Every single night we do family worship where we get down, we pray, we sing songs, we read the Bible, I teach them and educate them, and then pray, obviously close it out. But we've done this every single night since she was 3. Now we have 4 kids. We've maybe missed 6 times out of the entire, 10, 11 years now. And here's the great thing. They will not let us go to bed unless we do a family worship time. It's a blessing. So yeah, all the above. Like I said, if there's anything I'm going to preach, it's Christ and him crucified.
I love that. How long does those worship times last in the evening?
It's probably about 20, maybe 25 minutes. Sometimes it can get to 30 if we have a lot of questions and everything.
That's so cool. That's neat that you do that. And in your homeschool family. And so I probably have a lot of questions for you about that as Callan gets older. But Dustin, thank you so much for being on my show. Hey, let me tell you, if you ever want to jump back on, you have an update, you come out with anything new, and you want to alert my audience, you just let me know, and you'll be on. So
awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Stephen, I appreciate you guys.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.